Dr. Reena here. I'm a dental specialist and founder of RW Perio, located at 75 Harley Street. Welcome to my podcast, Life and Smile, where we talk about everything dental, lifestyle, business, and much more. Every episode, I'm joined in conversation with a specialist expert in their chosen field, who give us a behind-the-scenes glimpse into their daily regime, career turning points, and an insider look at what they can't live without. As a businesswoman myself, it's so inspiring to hear how people have built their careers and shattered those glass ceilings. So let's get the conversation going. I'm so delighted to start the debut episode of the Life and Smile podcast. As you know, I'm a specialist dentist, primarily located on Harley Street. I wanted to create this podcast to inspire and provide you with a behind-the-scenes insight into the lives of some of the best experts globally. These individuals are all from multiple industries and have been an inspiration to my journey so far and are recognized as leaders in their field. For our first episode, it's a huge honor to welcome Francesca Ogiermann-White, and she hardly needs an introduction as she is the Health and Beauty Editor at Large for Tatler magazine. Most notably, she is the editor of the Beauty and Cosmetic Surgery Guide, which we were also recently featured in, so thank you so much for including us. Francesca is also the founder of the Beauty Triangle, which originally launched to connect consumer audiences with the best in-class practitioners from all corners of the aesthetic and wellness industries. So, Francesca, welcome to the podcast and welcome to Harley Street.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reena. It's amazing to be joining you for your debut. I'm so flattered to be asked.
It's our honour. Thank you so much. So if we kick off the conversation with what prompted you to start your career as an editor and particularly focusing on health and beauty itself.
It goes back, I suppose, probably to my later days at school where I was torn between studying English literature or art. And I ended up going to Central St. Martin's for my degree where I studied curating, which is quite an unusual degree. But actually, I loved it because I got to do history of art. I got to do architecture, fashion journalism, so many different things. And yeah, I suppose sort of whilst I was there, I was fortunate enough to end up doing internships through that same degree. So I worked for several months, years even, at the Financial Times and the Sunday Times. And it was really interesting suddenly to get into the world of journalism and see how there was so much potential to bring those two worlds together, you know, the love of writing, the creativity. And in many ways, I've always felt that magazines are very much an art of curation themselves. Yes. You know, you have to very much think about what the reader wants to see on the pages and what the balance is like between the lighter features and the heavier features and the balance of pictures and words. So it was a real sort of blessing when I sort of landed my first job at Tatler.
And since your time from your first job at Tatler, how has your career progressed since, and do you enjoy it just as much as you did at the beginning?
Oh, 100%. I always say to everyone, there's never a dull day being a journalist, particularly when you work in health and wellness, because there's so much going on. I mean, you'll know this as a dental specialist. Every day is different. Yeah, every day is different. Every conference you attend, there's new research, there's new exciting stuff to sort of share with your communities and your readers. I suppose when I started at Tatler, I was really fortunate because, as you earlier mentioned, they were doing the Beauty and Cosmetic Surgery Guide, which when I joined was already considered this Bible of aesthetics. And I loved it. I loved meeting these incredible doctors and surgeons and practitioners because it felt that what they were doing for their patients was really restoring sort of confidence as well as physical sort of attributes at the same time. And I felt that was really rewarding and something very tangible to be able to share with readers, which is a bit of a departure for some things that happen in the beauty industry. You know, that there can be a lot of marketing and a lot of hype. And so I was really fortunate, obviously, to sort of follow that pathway towards aesthetics and wellness. And yeah, it's such a joy to be able to do it. I'm very, very privileged.
And then, of course, you started the Beauty Triangle as well, which is an incredible initiative. And so how did that come about, and what was the aims of that, and how's that going?
It's going very, very well, thank you. Every day is a challenge, but it's a really rewarding one, you know, particularly when it's your own baby in a way, I suppose. I'm sure it's the same when you first launched your clinic.
Absolutely. It's day and night focusing on that one thing to make it work. So
exactly.
It doesn't feel like work, I guess.
That's exactly it, actually. And I suppose you could say the Beauty Triangle grew out of my journalistic career. You know, I obviously sort of cover the surgical aesthetic side, but I also cover a lot of wellness for Tatler as well in my role. Lots of spas, lots of wellness practitioners, alternative therapies. And I always used to find myself inside these Harley Street consulting rooms or away on retreats and speaking to these amazing people and just being like, oh, I mean, I can put this into words for the magazine, but I would love to get these people in front of real consumers, because there's so much disconnect and sort of barriers to people wanting to pursue treatment, obviously, whether it's aesthetic or alternative. And I suppose that's how TBT came about. You know, we wanted to host these monthly events. We wanted to get sort of real experts, like the best in-class people in their field, and we wanted to put them in front of everyday consumers and connect them and say, okay, look, you come to me personally. I get people at dinner parties saying, who's the best for Botox? Who should I see for a boob job? Like, who should I send my kids to? They've got really bad acne. And so it was really an opportunity just to go, look, here, everyone meet and we'll connect you. And, you know.
And I guess it's quite interesting with the various experts also interacting with each other and seeing how the various fields link together. Because I think now it's all about holistic care, isn't it? And I think everyone's industry is almost linked together. I definitely think with dental, it's all a part of wellness and beauty and everything else. So it's
100%. I think everyone is so focused. I mean, I'm sure we're all bored to tears of hearing about Zoom face and like Zoom fatigue and everything. But I think for a lot of people, probably they were suddenly starting to become very aware and very conscious of not necessarily their teeth, but their smile, or maybe they were suddenly very conscious that they were hiding their smile more and what does that say? That perhaps they're not confident about it. And so I think dentistry, certainly what you do as somebody who specialises in the sort of wide sort of range of dentistry options, it's really, really valuable right now. And I always love seeing the conversations that come about when you have a few different practitioners on one of these panels.
Yes.
I think people often turn up and the practitioners themselves and they don't necessarily know where the conversation's going to go, and they don't know why they're all there together. And I'm like, it's fine that there is I suppose, method to the madness in my head. And it does, I hope work.
Yeah, no, it must be super interesting.
It really is.
And then in terms of your career so far, I mean, you've done so much in such little time. It's really inspiring from my side.
It's not that small a time. I'm sure it's all the aesthetic treatments I have.
But what would you say if you had to pick like one moment in your career so far? What would be your proudest moment to date?
God, it's a really tough one. I think probably launching the Beauty Triangle. Probably that there was a year in lockdown which was really difficult, and I think lockdown was difficult for everybody because it's that real make or break moment for a lot of businesses. Yes. And primarily what we do is we get in front of people and their public facing events, and suddenly with the lockdown we couldn't do that, and it was a real pivot. And it was we were suddenly doing webinars on Zoom, and we were doing the social media. It was something that I never in a million years would have thought we would do, but I think what a lot of us learned through lockdown certainly was to be flexible and to adapt and to try and think like, what do people out there need? And it's very much pushing myself into an area that I am not in any way comfortable with. Technology is not my forte, as anyone will tell you, but it was really rewarding when we did that first webinar, and we had such an incredible turnout, and it felt like people were really supported as well. That those first few months of lockdown when everyone was at home and that there was nothing to do and everyone's crying out for some sort of connection. It felt rewarding to have been able to establish that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I remember when we, first lockdown, we had to shut the clinic down. Second lockdown, we were fine to work as healthcare workers, but first lockdown, and I just didn't know what to do with myself because you're not used to. I mean, I can't really work from home. What did you do? So we built the clinic.
Well, that's an amazing use of time.
So the initial phase of the clinic was actually done during the first lockdown. So, but as you said, I mean, it's such a unique opportunity, and sometimes those are the times that bring the best out of you, and also open you up to a world that you may not be aware of. And I think without Zoom, I mean, I can't remember. I probably went on one webinar every few months. And after the lockdown, it was one webinar every day, pretty much.
So it became the language that we all spoke.
Absolutely. And I think it was interesting to see how many people were open to that. Even people who weren't really tech savvy were keen on going on webinars and connecting with people. And it almost felt like they were there in person. So I think there has been some sort of the beauty behind the lockdown and bringing out kind of what is possible and connecting people in different ways. So
I think that's so true. I think it's always good for humans to be pushed a little out of their comfort zones as well. I think it's like when you work your muscles out at the gym, you do need to stretch them. You need to cause a bit of a tear in order for them to rebuild, to be stronger, to grow, to learn, to evolve. And
absolutely,
I think, for a lot of people, like getting on Zoom, doing these webinars or whatever, it was, they didn't feel professional enough. I know I didn't. You didn't feel like you had the technical expertise, but you looked around and you saw everyone doing it. I mean, you only had to go on Amazon like I did to realize that there were no ring lights left to order. All of the microphones had gone, and I was like, wow, everyone is getting on this. And it's
brilliant.
Sometimes you just have to, jump on the train too.
And I think even after the pandemic, I think things like this will be around. I think Zoom's going to still be quite normal. So
definitely
make the most of technology like this podcast. So
yes, exactly. Well, this is the perfect time to be launching.
And on your kind of career pathway, I know for me, there's always been either a mentor or a book that I've read that inspires you along the way, especially during challenging times like the pandemic. You need that inspiration to kind of show you the way or kind of clear any confusions and answer your questions. For you, I mean, do you have a mentor? Is there a particular book that you always turn to in times of challenges, or how do you get through that?
I always look to my mother, in all honesty, as a bit of a role model professionally. And, when I was a baby, she set up her own company. She was a single mother. I always found it really inspiring. And I remember going into her office when I was really young, school holidays, because she worked all the time, and seeing her in these awesome 80s power suits with the big shoulder pads. Amazing. And just running this ship, and
Incredible.
Lots of clients, lots of employees, and just thinking, it's possible to, obviously be a mother, work. And so I don't know, that's always the direction and the drive I've had. In terms of books, I guess I normally see books as more like escapism, but there was, I had a great friend at Tatler. She's still a great friend. And she gave me a copy of Lean In by Charles Sandberg.
Yes, love that book.
It's amazing, isn't
brilliant.
it? You've read it too?
Yeah. It's absolutely brilliant.
I'd be really interested to get your thoughts on it, because I'm always very lucky in that I've always worked primarily at Condé Nast, which is probably 99.9% female in its sort of demographic of employees, certainly in Vogue House in London. And it's interesting because I never felt, fortunately, that I came up against a lot of the professional hurdles and barriers that somebody like Cheryl wrote about, although I did find it really, really inspiring, her whole concept of, leaning in, being more of an active sort of participant in the conversation in the workplace. And again, I think I'm sort of quite fortunate for being sort of brought up in that sort of very female-focused workplace. Yeah. But did you find it sort of inspiring, that book?
Absolutely. And I think since then, and the book's come out, things have changed. And I think business women, entrepreneurial spirit is a big part of what we do.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
I think it'll be really interesting to see where things go. But I think in dentistry, there's now more women than men. So
it's so
changed.
nice to see. I think when I first started editing the surgery guide, it was predominantly men that we wrote about. A lot of male surgeons, a lot of male aesthetic doctors, and it's interesting because probably the main reader of that supplement is female.
Yes.
And I think there is certainly a female patient who also identifies with, for obvious reasons, having a female doctor. And I think it's just really nice to see a little bit more of a balance across that spread as well. And, to have the option, who you want to see.
I absolutely agree, and I think using your qualities as a woman as a positive thing, and that nurturing value. There's many things, not just in healthcare, but just generally as a woman. Use it for your benefit. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So, and on that note, I mean, we briefly touched on it, but during talking about the pandemic, and I think post-pandemic from the dentistry side, I feel dentistry is now being a part of wellness, health, and beauty, and it's almost all working in synergy. There has been a shift on a sort of health first approach, rather than just aesthetically driven results. And people are seeing healthy as beautiful and such. And the first step in dentistry, for a beautiful smile. Have you been finding that from your side of the industry, in terms of there's almost been a shift in the thinking of beauty, health, and what it actually means?
I definitely have. I think you're so right. Health is the key word here, whether we're talking about dental health, whether we're talking about skin health, hormonal health.
Yes.
I think all of these things in combination, they all funnel towards, maybe aesthetically looking better and emotionally feeling better. But the fundamental foundation of it all is health. And it's interesting because it's applicable to absolutely everybody. Everything and everybody. Nobody would ever say, I don't want healthy teeth, or I don't want healthy skin.
Yes.
And actually the two do go hand in hand. We see so many aesthetic treatments and products now that are being marketed and, quite rightly being positioned for actually improving skin health or dental health. And I think that's it's a really nice way for us to be going in terms of this industry as well. It shouldn't just be about how these things make us look. It has to sort of have more substance. It has to take us towards longevity as well.
Yeah, completely agree. Be interesting to see where that goes in another 5-10 years.
Well, you must really be seeing it as a periodontist as well.
100%, and I think from my side as well, it's the link between your oral health and your general health, and that all linking together. And it's so interesting that gum health is linked with the rest of your body. So if you have gum disease, you're then more at risk of getting general health conditions like diabetes, Alzheimer's, all these kind of things. So it just makes sense to be healthy, to do everything we can to be healthy. And I think investing in your health is probably the best thing you can do, whether that's through exercise, diet, products, visiting the dentist, of course, is one of them.
I often think that as doctors or healthcare professionals as well, you're slightly like detectives. You have to be investigative in your approach, and sometimes you uncover something like bleeding gums, and it's not enough to say, okay, well, we're just going to give you a mouthwash and fix this. It's about, well, what does this actually say about your underlying health? And
100%
I think that's what GPs they've always just been concerned with the patient's care at the end of the day and looking after that patient. So I think it's a really good thing for us to remember and acknowledge.
I mean, I completely agree, and I always say to my patients, your mouth's like a mirror of the rest of your body. So if there's stuff going on in your body, it's going to firstly show up in your mouth. Yeah. So you're right. When I do see bleeding gums, we have to literally be detectives and say, okay, fine. Is it because it's due to home care? But there's usually a lot more to the story. It could be stress. Yeah. It could be something changing in your body, hormonal changes, all these kind of things. So I think you're absolutely right. And unless you see someone holistically as a person, you won't be successful in your approach. So
I love the idea of the mirror being the mouth of your body. Somebody told me very recently that in ancient Chinese medicine, one of the reasons that they do tongue diagnosis was because originally they were diagnosing like the great emperors of China and places, and they couldn't necessarily touch their bodies physically, so they had to do things like look at their irises, and they had to like look at their tongues, from a bit of a distance as well. So interesting. And that's how they became so incredible at diagnosing all these things, just from looking at the inner workings of like your mouth, for example. It's amazing what the body can tell you. It's a fascinating machine.
That's incredible. I didn't know that. And so obviously along your way in your career, there's always challenges. I know certainly I've faced a number of them. I quite like challenges now because I think it keeps things interesting.
That's a nice way of looking at it.
It keeps things fun, and as you said earlier, you need a bit of a push to get stronger and take you up to the next level. Apart from the pandemic, is there anything else that you faced as a challenge that you've had to overcome that's helped you grow to the next level?
I think probably the natural evolution of my professional career, which was when I started at Tatler 12 years ago now, it was a very different beast. The journalism industry. I started in a team of 3 people. All I was doing was writing every day. It was very anonymous. There was no public facing to it. Fast forward 10 years from that point, and it was no longer a team of 3, it was a team of 1, because teams had shrunk so much. But the workload was increasing, and we saw this across every sort of industry. Social media was booming. There was such a demand for online. There's a demand for content, and I personally found it a challenge because I have always loved to take my time with writing. I've always loved to produce really good quality content where I'm able to really do the research, get stuck into a feature, and I could see that the sands were shifting, and I could see that actually what was needed was a lot of content really quickly. And it worried me because I thought that the quality is going to go out of this. And I think a lot of people felt the same. But actually it did sort of bode well, because that was probably what prompted me to have the conversation with my editor to say, I don't know if this is sustainable for me as a career path long term, but what I would love to do is take ownership of the areas of what I write about, within beauty, specifically surgery and specifically spas, and focus on those. And so that was my transition to actually leaving Tatler full time and becoming a contributing editor, health and beauty editor at large. Awesome. And it was a scary moment having that conversation, because there was every chance he could have said, no, that's not how I see the magazine working, and thank you for your time, here's the door. And I'm really, really lucky that he didn't. He enabled me to work in this way.
I mean, that's amazing. And I think also agree, those difficult conversations, you sometimes just have to have them, and you worry about them for a week ahead of time, and you can't sleep, but once you've had that conversation, you feel so much better, and it's always the outcome's usually better than you imagine. So I think sometimes having that courage is really important. And on that note, I mean, someone who's budding to be in the same position as you, I mean, what would be your advice for someone who's interested in being an editor in health and beauty and following a similar career path?
I think the one thing I've always stood by is to obviously sort of have an idea of what you want to do as a career and as a profession, because there's a lot of things that you can do out there. Some amazing jobs, many jobs that didn't even exist when I was applying for my first job. But I also really believe in being open-minded and just seeing what the world throws at you, in a sense, because there's often these incredible opportunities that are waiting in the wings, and you might not know they exist. You might not even be able to steer life towards them, but sometimes they are there. And I think just being open to opportunities and things that might happen is hopefully the key to life, being interesting and evolving and taking you to new places. I mean, life is supposed to be a bit unpredictable, and you're supposed to learn from it.
I couldn't agree more. And I think I remember when I was much younger, I used to plan my life out like 20 years of what am I going to do at this age? And I just realized you can't do that. I think it's, as you said, evolving, and also I personally just think about what's the next best step and what makes sense to do, and making sure you're continually moving forwards.
And I think society has changed, and it has such a massive impact on how we see ourselves. Like when I was much younger, I thought, by 21 I'll be married, and at 22 I'll have my first baby.
I was exactly
I'm 36 now and only just got married. But it's you have to sort of move at the pace that the world dictates as well. You can't force things too much. And I think open-mindedness is key. It keeps people curious. It keeps them excited about what else might be out there. And none of us know it all. Like there's a whole world out there to discover.
And going with your gut, I think, has really helped me as well.
That's so true.
So important.
Yeah, the gut feeling.
Don't know how that works, but it works.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking to somebody about it recently, and actually they were saying, well, I like to go with my gut, but I also like to be analytical. And I was like, well, that's not really going with your gut. You just have to. You instinctively know, don't you, what feels like the right thing? And it can be difficult sometimes, though.
Yeah. And so on a day-to-day basis now, obviously it must be your hectic schedule, lots of deadlines, quite demanding, fast-paced, and you have access, obviously, the best in the industry, so it must be quite a busy day, to say the least. Do you have like a signature wellness regime that you stick by to get you through the day, or do you like to try out various other things, or how do you kind of get through your workload and day and still look so amazing?
Oh, that's kind of you. I think I'm a classic journalist in that I am always trying different things. Okay. 1 week I'm intermittent fasting, the next week it's keto, the week after that it's like something else entirely. That there are definitely a few things that I like to sort of maintain and sort of build into a routine. I shouldn't say this to you because you're a dentist, but starting the day with like my hot water and lemon, which I've been told is terrible for my teeth enamel, but I think it's really good for my gut. Right. Yeah. Ideally through a straw, but I'm not that organised in the morning. What else do I do? I love to dry body brush. I mean, again, that also goes out the window if time is of the essence and I just need to get out the door quickly. Yes. There's always lots of products going on in my bathroom, so that sometimes takes precedence. What else? I mean, I sort of split my time between working from home, but also buzzing around town on my bicycle, doing meetings. So I think, always having some way to wind down. I love yoga, whether it's an online class at home. Yeah. Love reformer Pilates as well. I sort of try and fit that in if I'm in town. And then I suppose, supplementation. Yes. Love a bit of magnesium at night time. Yeah. Just help me sort of drift off. If not, I've started listening to these nighttime stories on the Calm meditation app.
I have that too. Yeah, it's brilliant.
They're incredible. It's interesting. Incredible. They're all train journeys. Have you noticed this?
Yes.
There's about 20 different train journeys on the Calm app for the nighttime stories, but there's obviously some sort of metaphor, isn't there? Sort of a train taking you deeper into sleep.
Exactly. But I think it's really clever. I think after you've had such a busy day, switching off can be tricky. and good quality sleep cannot be underestimated.
Well,
So
we all need it. If we're going to have these busy days, we also
you
need really good quality sleep. But you're so right. So often we fall into bed and
Yeah.
your mind's just whirling around,
Yeah.
and maybe you haven't even had time that day to process everything that's happened.
I've got a sleep app which I got a few years ago, which rates the quality of your sleep. It's very clever.
Oh, wow. How is your sleep quality?
I think yesterday was 76%, so not bad. And then it gives you like a graph and averages, and it's very clever. So I think sleep is so important. And looking after yourself. So and then what about I always have my rucksack with me with my various essentials that I carry around everywhere. Do you have any what's in your kind of survival kit, any things that you need throughout the day that you kind of have to have?
I never leave the house without lipstick.
Yeah.
I literally wouldn't even walk to the newsagents without it in the morning. It's my one thing. Not
Amazing.
a scrap of makeup, but always lipstick. What else is in my... everyone will probably say this. My iPhone is surgically attached to my hand. You run your whole life.
I think my laptop is literally my life. I can't leave
exactly.
Without,
and you misplace or you lose it, God forbid, and you think, oh my God, I'm disconnected from the world. Fountain pens. I'm obsessed with fountain pens.
Nice.
Got this really nice Japanese brand called Kanibo, which they're really beautiful. They're tiny and they come in these gorgeous colours, and they're not expensive. So I always lose them. So I've always got a nice fountain pen rattling around. Yeah, just in case you need. What are your essentials?
I would say my laptop firstly. It's literally got my life on it. Probably my smart and writing file, which I have all my bits of papers.
That's
I'm always
very
working,
smart.
trying to keep my do a lot of teaching, so keep all my documents in there.
It's amazing that you're still a paper girl. I used to love a Smythson diary. My paper Smythson diary every year was my go-to, and then it's all on the iPhone now.
I know.
It's so sad.
I kind of there's certain things I just have to write though. I
totally get it.
And it's your mindset and just the clarity when you're writing.
I think creatively as well. I often brainstorm or sort of doodle and sort of plan future plans. Down on paper. It just seems more visual that way to me.
Completely agree. And then what else? I guess I always have my lip balm with me.
Good dentist.
Yeah, exactly. And we're actually in the process of making our own lip balm as well, product. So
that's amazing.
We're working on that at the moment. So
Can you say much about it, or is it?
I would say watch this space.
Okay.
That
sounds like something to look forward to.
I hope so. Fingers crossed. Really excited about it. So for 2022, tell us more about any exciting projects you've got coming up, anything to look out for from your side.
Well, I think you mentioned it earlier, 2022, our cosmetic surgery guide has just come out from Tatler, which is the highlight of the year, sort of work-wise for all of the team. There's so much time and energy that goes into it, and it's it's on sale for all of March, February, March, but actually, you can get it online all year round, which I think is really helpful. Just sort of forging ahead with monthly events. We're planned all the way up until June now, I think, which is really exciting, doing some really big scale things towards the summer, in collaboration with some other sort of bigger conferences and aesthetic conferences. So really, really expanding and trying to sort of grow that as much as possible. Just not stopping. There's a long to-do list. I'm sure you're exactly the same.
Well, it keeps it fun. That sounds really, really exciting.
What's on your to-do list for
on my
2022?
to-do list for 2022, so the podcast is obviously really exciting. We've got lots of very talented guests like yourself on the line, so that will be really good.
So excited to listen to them all.
Thank you. And we've launched our diploma, so we're doing a lot more teaching for perio school. So we're running a diploma in perio for dentists and hygienists.
That's brilliant.
That's been really exciting this year.
Just passing that sort of information onwards.
Exactly.
And
it's all
sort
about
of education.
Sharing. 100% agree. And there is a beauty of learning together in a group. So and then we are expanding the clinic as well. So we've got 2 new surgeries being built. So
I think goodness, this place is going to take over the whole building. Yeah, it sounds like it. When do you sleep?
Well,
your app is telling me that it's not bad.
It's keeping me under control. So
exactly. Well done you.
Thank you. Well, Francesca, thank you so much. You've been such a wonderful first guest, and it's been an absolute delight to be in conversation with you. So thank you so much for your time, and we're really looking forward to seeing you in Harley Street again soon.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a joy to sort of have this conversation, and thank you so much for inviting me on and asking me so many nice questions. It's normally me on the opposite end of asking the questions, so it's quite unusual to be interviewed. But
thank you. It's our pleasure.